I want all my players to think forward, look forward, play forward.
RENE MEULENSTEEN, welcome back. You okay?
I'm very well, Steve. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Not at all. I mean, you were last on in January, at which point there was so much in front of us. You were about to head to the World Cup with Iraq. Now, since the tournament, you've had a couple of major professional developments. So, firstly, you're now back in the club game as Director of Football Methodology at Stockport. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, how that came about, I've known Mark Stott, the owner of Stockport, for quite some time now. I've had an initial conversation with him, I think 7 years ago when he took over the club, and at a particular time, Job was sort of involved with some of his activities outside Stockport. It's called box football, and he asked me to come in and have a chat, which I did. And over time, we've met up a few times, and Job has obviously progressed. My son, my oldest son, as working for Stockport in the first team initially as an analyst, then as an analyst coach, and now he's promoted to first team coach. Similar job that I did obviously at Manchester United. And they've also changed managers. Dave Challoner, who was there for a number of years, has done an extremely fantastic job for them. But they felt it was time to get some fresh eyes and some fresh voices in the building, which they did by appointing Jimmy McNulty, who's a really promising young manager, great ideas and everything, but obviously also still in the game fairly young, in his 40s. So Mark and Damien Allen, the technical director, felt they could do with a little bit of experience, around that setup. So they sounded me out. Plus the fact that they would like to use my expertise, especially of skill development, to implement it in the club the way that I did at Manchester United from 2001 onwards. So it's a bit of a broad scope of the job. So I'm a little bit with the first team at this moment in time, a fly on the wall, just to see what's happening, what's the format in terms of how they prepare, how they run the sessions, and then it will take another ten games to really get a feel for it, where we sit and where we stand. So it's different. I think it's also a good moment in my career, that you really use that experience and expertise that you build over more than 45 years of coaching and try to help, to help young people in the game, whatever role they have. So that is where I'm focusing on at this moment in time.
And in terms of the role itself and what it will achieve, it's essentially looking to achieve joined up thinking through all levels of the club, isn't it? And I suppose if you were to explain the benefits of the role, you could probably use United from 2013 to 2025 as an example of what happens when you don't have that joined up thinking and that sort of clear style identity.
Absolutely. I think what my advantage was when I eventually was appointed by Sir Alex as the first team coach was that I worked basically through every department of the club, starting with the youngest ones at grassroots level, and roll out that skill development program. It's crazy for words. In 2001, when I was appointed at Manchester United as skill development coach, they appointed me because they couldn't find a technical coach in England. 25 years on, 2026, and there are still not enough specialized skill development coaches in the game, especially at the foundation phase. Um, it's not only an English problem, it's a global problem. But I felt how important it was to put that massive cornerstone into place at the early ages. And we know all the players that came through that, with Danny Welbeck, Tom Cleverley, Jesse Lingard, Scott McTominay, you name them, and there's tons more that I could name that came through it. Some that made it to the first team of Manchester United, some became even in English internationals, and some others had great careers elsewhere. But it was evident for me that that was such an important part. But I also felt as I grew through the age groups and when I picked up the reserve team as well, that was for me an opportunity basically again to glue everything together to really implement and make that skill aspect a real integral part of the game, because the one of the most important weapons that any team can possess is unpredictability in the attacking phase, in the create phase. You can only have that if you've got the ability to open up opponents with quick combination play and good movement, and players that can dominate the 1v1. If you've got both, now we've had plenty at that particular time between 2007 and 2013. If you look at our front line, with Cristiano, with Rooney, with Giggsy, with Berbatov, with Tevez, with Nani, with Valencia, with you even Danny Welbeck at the time. So many players that had that both, and that created. I felt a very entertaining and fascinating and an effective team in that period.
Just completely unpredictable, completely unpredictable. And just to jump forward, I suppose, in the interview to United Today, when you look at the forward line, there's really only Sesko who has that sort of defined role. Everyone else is very fluid around him, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Now they got plenty of creativity with Ahmad and with Mbeumo and obviously Fernandez, who is obviously great to unlock those defenses with those great passes. Cunha can run with the ball, can take players on. You know what I mean? And you got some really good young, interesting boys coming through, like Shea Lacey. You know what I mean? That have those ability. But you need that. I mean, I always remember Ferguson when he brought me in his office when he appointed me first team coach after a number of weeks when we did pre-season. He basically said, Rennie, I don't have to tell you how to run a training sessions. The players, are really happy with it, how it's going, and I just want us to make sure that we look through the same window if it comes to Manchester United. So if I close my eyes and I want to see the best Manchester United play, this is what I see, right? And he had a flip chart, and on the flip chart he's written, like the main three things defensively. And I go through it fairly quickly, Steve. But he said I want us to be able to press aggressively, especially at home, because we really want to grip the opponents with the scruff of the neck and put so much pressure on that they can't deal with it. Sometimes we want to press cleverly. We want to drop a little bit and we press on a player on a certain area. At times we need to be really compact, making sure that we don't give any, crosses and chances away. And obviously we try to regain the ball, and then it's a matter of are we regaining and counter attack, or are we regaining and retaining the ball, depending on the scoreline and the time of the game. And then the other flip chart was all about possession. He said it's such an important aspect of the game. Top teams they use possession to create the initiative of the games and turn that initiative into control. You do that by creating chances and scoring goals. But within that possession, there's a few golden rules. He said rhythm is the most important thing, that teams can create rhythm, maintain rhythm, or change rhythm. So if we get into congested areas up the pitch, I want us to switch to a really one-touch football, with the passing patterns of up, back, and through. So those are the things. And then he said, I want all my players to think forward, look forward, play forward. Now, if you think about that, that's a subconscious message to the players, because what you're going to get is you're going to get a very vertical thrust, because players always know I need to play forward whenever I can, and the players in front, they know that the players in the back line have to play forward, so they have to make the movement. So you're going to get a very fluid, situation. The square pass, or maybe the back pass, which he didn't like at all. That was the only last resort to basically get out of trouble, play away from the press maybe, and then go forward again. Then the last golden rule was if we have got time on the ball, face forward, no pressure, whether it was a centre back, a number six. I want forward movement, forward runs on the opposite of the midline. And what I mean by that, Steve, is we sort of cut the pitch in half. Now a lot of clubs work in these lanes, a middle lane and then a left and a right inside lane and an outside lane. We just basically cut the pitch in half. You got a left side and a right side. So we wanted movement on the opposite of the midline by making forward runs or players, let's say wingers coming in the pocket. So we always had two options in that respect, because we always felt that when you build up on one side, the opposition will move across, and then obviously the solutions are on the other side. But the last sheet was the most important one. He said, "This is what for me what United stands for. When we attack, I want us to attack with pace, power, penetration, and unpredictability." And he said, "I want you to instill those four things in that team every single day. What you do in training. It doesn't matter whether it's a finishing session, whether it's a condition game, whether it's small-sided games. I want to see those elements. When we attack, I want to see pace, power, penetration, unpredictability." Now that was music to my ears, obviously, because I felt that is obviously what all the top players show in the top teams, And if you look back, to our games and the top games that we played in that particular, you know, those number of years. I mean, it was all there. We went from box to box with pace and power, with all those runs of whether it's Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, Park, Giggsy, and it went so quick that not a lot of teams could deal with it. Now, plenty of unpredictability in terms of the way that we build up, the way that we circulate the ball, the way that we got players into 1v1 situations. I saw clips not long ago, Steve, and it was about those games. And they basically highlighted the number of backheels, the little flicks that we did. And people think, well, no, we trained on that. That was part of certain training sessions where we really incorporated, because turnovers and little flicks, you can't defend.
Yeah.
You can't defend. And you see them. And then obviously, you need to have the quality of the players to be able to execute it, but also the bravery, the courage to do it. But it was exciting to watch. It was, for myself, like I said, I just watched there and looking back, and you think, wow, that was pretty good.